What's up, everybody? It's Kevin here from Happy Beard Games, and today is a room tour video. Yes, the first time I've ever done a real room tour, and it's a tour of my game room. So, most of the stuff you've probably seen in the background of my videos, many of these games I've played on my videos, but in this video we're going to quickly go over what's on each of my shelves in my game room, and some other stuff. Plus, we're going to quickly highlight what are my favorite things on each of the shelves, because they're sorted by category. So I've got like Nintendo NES, I've got an Atari shelf, I've got a television shelf and stuff like that. So there's lots of different things to look at in this room. So let's jump in with Happy Beard Games Room Tour 2020. I've got up here the Atari 2600 original. It still works, it's just I'm using the Retron instead. I've got some game boxes right there of Asteroids, Missile Command, and Empire Strikes Back, and a controller. So I've been a PlayStation fan for a very long time. I had the N64 first as a kid, but I played PlayStation more once I got it. So a lot of these PlayStation games are games that I had from when I was a kid. Not so many of them I've got as an adult. For some reason I didn't really want to go back to the PS1 as a collector or a game player. I just wanted to play the ones that I played as a kid. So I have things like most of the Final Fantasies, pretty much all of them. I've got some other games like Metal Gear Solid, Tekken 2. It's mostly Final Fantasy and some RPGs. Over here I've got this Sony Walkman, which I just refound in my garage recently, so I put that up there because Sony PlayStation, Sony Walkman, come on. And then I've recently purchased a PS3. You've probably seen my video on that. If you haven't, it's one of my biggest videos of the year so far. I don't know why, but I got a PS3. And so this is my library so far. It came with 5 games, so that's like 5 games, and I've already got like maybe like 13 games and more on the way. So I've got a ton of PS3 games here. PS3 games are pretty inexpensive right now, so they're all like $10 or something, but some of them are really good. Like one of the more expensive ones is the Metal Gear Solid Legacy Collection, which comes with every Metal Gear Solid game and Metal Gear game, except for Metal Gear Rising and like some of the later ones, I guess. Also got Phantom Pain, got some Transformers games, 2 of the Uncharted games. Let's move on to the Atari 2600, which is the shelf right below it. So here's my Atari 2600 collection. It's a little bit bigger than the PlayStation 3 and PS1, but the games are mostly what I got in one lot. I got all these in a lot. There's a video of it on my channel from a few years ago. If you go way back, I got a bunch of Atari games in a lot. Some of them I did not get. Some of them I purchased later. Some of the ones that I really wanted to play I had to buy later, but some of the more generic or common games, such as Asteroids or Space Invader type games, because I got a whole bunch of Space Invaders. I've got a few right there, and then I've got more piled up somewhere else of just Space Invaders. But things like that and Asteroids I've got a lot of, but things like Mario Bros, Donkey Kong, Q*bert, Centipede, Joust, I had to buy those ones separately. I've got this isn't really Atari, but I've got a Centipede machine here. Did it lose battery? No. It works, and you can play the actual game on it, so it's a really cool collectible. I've got this guy. It's not just a Pac-Man display. It's a plug-and-play arcade machine. I've got a 5200 game there. I've got a 7800 game there, but that's all I have for those. I've got some more box games. These ones right here. They're all complete in box, but the games are out. So now instead of moving all the way down to the bottom shelf, we're just going to move on to this next section, which is Nintendo NES. I've got a little shrine up here to it, just because this is the poster that came with the Classic Edition. It's a really cool poster. I figured I'd frame it and put it up above my Nintendo collection. I've got a bunch of Nintendo stuff here and some 3D glasses just to add to it. Because of the game Rad Racer used 3D glasses, I left those up there. I've got a Nintendo controller. That's actually the one from the Classic Edition. That's why it's up there. I've got the Classic Edition itself, the Classic Edition box, the 4-score original box, the Zapper original style, the Advantage, an NES console, which I actually have 3 of, but that's one of them. They all work, I think. So one of them is missing one of the pin connectors, but they do work eventually with a little more maintenance. Then I've got this vintage Mario toy right there, one of my favorite Mario collectible toys that I have. I've got those Pixel Pals from Mario Bros. 3 of Mario and Luigi. And then I've got the Nintendo Power Glove, which you've probably seen in a few of my videos, but it's also autographed by James Rolfe of AVGN. So we've got to go to this shelf. NES games, NES games, NES games. I've got over 100. I think I have like 110 maybe now. So I've got some in the box, or with the box, like soccer and pinball. You might have seen this in my most expensive NES games video. I've also got Monster Party and Jeopardy, the same ones. I've got the poster that came with the 4-score as well, because I have that in the box as well. I've got some Mario Brothers Super Show DVDs here. I've got a Castlevania vodka flask that's not really like licensed or anything, but it's just Castlevania themed vodka. I've got all these like figures up here. I try to keep my toys and figures like appropriate to where they're from. So like these are 8-bit Nintendo figures, so I put them with the NES collection. I've got like Back to the Future trading cards, Nintendo tattoos, Nintendo trading cards, some Zelda stuff, and I've got my Game Boys. Here's a Game Boy, it's damaged. Here's a Game Boy Pocket that's damaged. I've got 2 perfectly fine Game Boy Colors, 2 perfectly fine SPs, a Game Boy Advance Micro, which is really cool. I've got the 2DS, which is also really cool. I really like this a lot more than I thought I would, and I got the new Nintendo 3DS right there. So that's it for that shelf. My favorite game on the entire NES is probably... It's really hard to say. It's either like Batman, Castlevania, or Super Mario Bros. 3. I'm thinking one of those. And if I zoom in on this bottom shelf, you can see this is where I keep my fellow YouTubers' cards and other things like game stores. I've got Home of the Future Toys, Castlevania games, Party Play Gaming, Intellivision Revolution, lots of different things. I like to keep the cards, business cards from my fellow friends and stores. On the top of the shelf here on the wall, I've got some Nintendo Power posters. These are all from the original Nintendo Powers. I've got some box controllers and other collectibles as well. Over here in the corner, I've got a Metroid DS Jones Soda, a Ghostbusters Orange High-C Ecto Cooler, and a Pac-Man Red Bull. Got some controller boxes, a Nintendo display, a red Pikmin, all my Super Nintendo box games, which is just like 5 or 6 different ones. Blockbuster game case, a Boo, which is supposed to light up but never did. Got some Mario figures, some Street Fighter, Zelda, Super Nintendo Classic Edition, a Metroid Prime box toy set. I don't know, it's like a toy set, I never opened it. Got the Sega Genesis Mini, really cool. Got my own business card there, Happy Beard Games, yep. And I've got a skeleton Lego guy, which I just thought was really cool. Alright, so now we're on to Super Nintendo, which is my favorite console of all time. And it has some of my favorite games of all time. Here is the Classic Edition, which was really popular when it first came out. Got the controller for it there, still with the tag on it, because it came with 2, I only used 1. Got the original Super Nintendo mouse, pretty super. You can play some cool games with that, like Mario Paint and Jurassic Park. I've got a Shy Guy, I've got my Beard Bomb box, I don't know why I have that. And some of my favorite games that I have on the Super Nintendo are Super Mario RPG, Super Castlevania 4, which is my favorite game of all time, and the Donkey Kong Country trilogy. I've also got this right here, which is the Donkey Kong Country Exposed Nintendo Power promotional video, which is a VHS tape with a commercial detailing about Donkey Kong Country. It's pretty hilarious. You should look it up on YouTube. It's really good. Now these are all Super Famicom games, the Japanese equivalent of the Super Nintendo, and they don't have side labels on the side, so I need to find a way to label those sometime soon, because I have no idea what game it is until I pull it out of the shelf, and that's kind of annoying and kind of hard to do, kind of. So I have games like Sailor Moon games, Ranma 1/2 games, I have Fist of the North Star, and Yu Yu Hakusho, among others. Most of them are based off anime or are Famicom or Japanese exclusives. Over here I've got some big Famicom games. These are still Nintendo NES, not Super Famicom, but these are like the original Famicom, but they're just bigger carts, and they're from Famicom Jump, so they're both based upon Shonen Jump series. Kind of interesting cart design. Some of the Famicom games do have side labels, such as Dragon Ball and Gundam, The Goonies 2, and Xevious as well. The rest do not. I have games like Dragon Warrior 2 and 4, and Dragon Quest 2 and 4, if you want to call them that. That's the original title. and some other ones. Yeah. So moving on down the list, we've got Nintendo 64 here. I've got a Game Shark. I've got the original non-expansion pack thing. The expansion pack is in my system. I've got some N64 stickers from Pez. Here's a Nintendo Power Pokemon Stadium trading card. And here is Pokemon Stadium 2 in Japanese. Now in Japan, number 2 is the same as Pokemon Stadium 1 in North America. There's actually 3 Pokemon Stadium games in Japan. Here's an old Taco Bell Happy Meal Super Mario 64 toy. I've got part of a box art of Cruisin' World. I've got some Rumble Packs. And all of my N64 games, the English ones, I bought side labels for. So every game I have will have a side label sticker that I have to put on it. And they're really cool. They're really high quality. And one of my favorite games on the N64 that I have is probably Donkey Kong 64 or Diddy Kong Racing. I really like the Donkey Kong series. I also have Resident Evil 2, which is kind of a notable game that I have. I also have the game Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, one of the best games ever made. And I always love to show this off because I got it at Goodwill not too long ago for $1.99. Yeah. Now I love Sega and Sega Genesis, but I'm definitely much more of a Nintendo guy. So I don't have very much Sega stuff here. This is all my Sega shelf and regarding Genesis and mostly just Sonic stuff. Got a part of a Sonic the Hedgehog comic book where Sonic apparently gets married. Weird. I've got Big the Cat toy. Got a Sonic plushie. Got some box Genesis games. More box Genesis games. The Genesis Classic Edition Mini. A Sega Classic poster. My newest Genesis game is Star Trek The Next Generation. All my games are back there. They're kind of hard to see, but one of my favorite ones is Castlevania Bloodlines, which I got very recently, early at the end of last year actually. Castlevania Bloodlines. Down here we've got Intellivision stuff. Here's the box for the Intellivision Flashback console. Here's the controller for the Intellivision Flashback console, which can actually be removed from the console, unlike the original, which was hardwired. Got some original sleeves for the controller, because it uses sleeves or overlays. I've got all the Classic Editions overlays as well. Got some boxed Intellivision games here from the original Intellivision. They're really cool because on these ones, unlike Atari, well, some Ataris do this I think, but they open up like that, like a book. I always thought that was cool. These are Commodore 64 games in box. These are all my Intellivision games. About 80% of it is just Space Armada, which is a Space Invaders clone. So I got a lot of Space Armada copies. Got a couple random ColecoVision games. Football and baseball. Got big box PC games. We've got some floppy disks right here. Got Simpsons Arcade, probably my favorite out of those floppies. Remember, don't copy that floppy. The big box ones are D&D games, Dungeon Hack and Advanced Dungeons and Dragons collection. Got some figures of Minecraft and Fallout because they're classic. PC series. Well, Minecraft's a bit newer, but yeah, you know. I've got all the Final Fantasy XI expansions in the box. I've got some other games like Star Wars, Final Fantasy XIV. Now this part of the room is a bit tricky to get to. It's not that tricky when I'm actually here, but on video it's a bit tricky to get to because it's in that weird corner of the room and there's not too much space. So we've got GameCube games up here on this shelf. It's mostly just GameCube all the way to there. It stops there. I've got some really good ones like Phantasy Star Online, episodes 1 and 2. I've got Pikmin 2, just looking through it. My favorite game is probably that Phantasy Star Online and Metroid Prime 1 and 2. I've also got some more appropriate Nintendo toys and action figures from the GameCube era, like this GameCube, Tetra from Wind Waker. I got a Wind Waker Link, and some other stuff like a Paper Mario sticker, and some memory cards, a GameCube case. Now another system, like the PS3, that is also pretty new to me is the original Xbox. I got one a couple years ago, and I've just started my collection about a year ago. Not really that much, but I have all these Xbox games so far, and a few more that are not having a case. They're just loose, kind of, in a little smaller case, so that you can't really see them on there. But most of them for Xbox, I do have the original case. Probably the best game that I have in terms of being an expensive game is this game right here. Marvel vs. Capcom 2, one of the most expensive and sort of rarest games on the Xbox. I have not really 2 copies of it. I had GameStop send me the wrong copy, but the right case. So I have this one is the right one. This one is just the case. So I mean, I've got 2 cases of one of the rare games. That's cool. One of the other more notable games I have for the original Xbox is this Dead or Alive Ultimate Collection. It's complete in box. It even has these Dead or Alive trading cards with it of Ayane and Kasumi. It came with Dead or Alive Ultimate 1, which is a remake of 1, and Dead or Alive Ultimate 2, which is a remake of 2. I also have DOA 3 and Volleyball. And I've also got these Halo books. I also have Halo 1 and 2, but these are Halo novels. I haven't read them yet. It's First Strike and Fall of Reach. I hear Fall of Reach is really good. So now we're moving on down to the PS2 section of my shelves. If you're wondering why I don't keep it with the PS1 and 3, it's because PS3, the one I have, it can play PS1 and PS3 games. So I keep those together, but then I keep the PS2 over here. But I've got, most of these are DDR, like all these right here are Dance Dance Revolution games. So I've got almost all of them for the PS2, except for the Disney one, I think. I've got some Final Fantasies, including 12 Collector's Edition, Steelbook. I've got Dot Hack Infection, Dragon Quest VIII are my 2 most recent games on the PS2. And I also have Pump It Up, which is another dance video game, sort of like DDR. Got some Star Wars games, Star Trek Voyager, also Spider-Man, Rocky, some Ratchet and Clank games. Now this shelf's kind of a mix-up of a lot of different things, mostly DS and 3DS games. As you can see, all the 3DS games are right there on the top. The bottom row is all DS games. Most of my DS games and 3DS games have their exact cases, except for 1 on 3DS and a few on the DS. I've also got some PSP games. Yes, I have a PSP as well. And I don't have that many PSP games in box. Most of them I just did digitally because their download store was awesome. But I have these ones. And probably the most notable one is Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep. And this is my Sega Dreamcast game collection. Not too much, but I do love the Dreamcast. It's just really hard to find games for locally. And it's hard to collect and get the games with the cases. It's really a hard one to collect for me at least. So I've got sort of the Berserk Guts' Raid, which is what I actually bought the console for. And then I've got these 2 games for Dreamcast that are completely new sealed still. Yeah, Coaster Works and Space Channel 5. I hear they're great, but I just don't play the Dreamcast enough to play them. I might do something with them or trade them at some point, but I do like them. I just haven't gotten around to playing them yet. And it's kind of weird because most consoles I play all my games on, but not the Dreamcast. And the games that I do play on the Dreamcast, like Sword of the Berserk and Evil Dead and Sonic Adventure, I really enjoy those games a lot. I've played them a lot. I've beaten Berserk like 5 times, but I just haven't gotten around to playing very many Dreamcast games. I also have this game here, which is a PC game, Sonic CD, the PC version. And then I've got the PC version of Sonic and Knuckles. Or, I think it has Sonic 3, Sonic Knuckles as well. And then I've got another version of it that came from Jack in the Box back in the day. Weird, huh? Also on Dreamcast, the modding is really easy. I've got some homebrew games. These are not the same as the retail games. These are specially made homebrew games by fans. I've got Mario Call of Cthulhu. Got Kingdom Hearts. Not really Kingdom Hearts. It's like a weird fan-made one. Cowboy Bebop. Now, while this used to be one of my favorite consoles, and it still has very fond memories to me, the Nintendo Wii is on my bottom shelf in the corner right now, which is weird because I don't play it that often right now. The Nintendo Wii, I do love it. I love a lot of the games on it. They're a lot of fun. But right now, they're kind of down there. And I actually have a lot of Wii games. I think out of all the consoles, especially the disc-based, CD-based consoles, Nintendo Wii is definitely the highest on my collectible list in terms of how much I have in the collection. I think only the NES I have more games for. So I've got like 100 different games here. I've got the box for Skyward Sword. Got the box for the actual Wii remote. I've got the box for Red Steel 2, which is really a cool game on that console. Some Mario figures. If you want to know about my Wii Wednesdays series, these are the ones that I'm working on in the future. If I ever go to do a Wii Wednesday again, these are the games I'll grab. Sakura Wars, Pandora's Tower, and The Last Story are the ones that I'll go to, probably. And I've got some overstock PS2 loose games down there in the corner as well. Right here I've got some video game soundtracks. I've got Twilight Princess, World of Warcraft, another copy of World of Warcraft. I got Donkey Kong 64 soundtrack, Smash Brothers 4 soundtrack, Majora's Mask soundtrack, the original Majora's Mask soundtrack, and 2 different versions of Ocarina of Time's soundtracks. One on the N64 and one on the 3DS version. This is all my amiibo up here for the most part. I think this is all my amiibo up on the shelf. Most of them are loose. Got the Yarn Yoshi up there, the 8-bit ones up there. Got Richter, complete in box, my newest one. Haven't done much with him yet, obviously. And I've got Shovel Knight, complete in box up there as well. Really cool, I love those ones. I don't know why I haven't opened Richter yet. I have no idea why. Just haven't gotten around to using them. Anyways, on my Nintendo Switch collection here, it's growing more every day. It seems like there's always a cool new Switch release coming out. So I love the Nintendo Switch. Here's my Switch itself right here in the dock. But I've got like a dock light right here. Got the boxes for the controllers. Boxes for some of the collector games like Witcher 3 and Splatoon 2. Just a lot of stuff. I kind of keep my games loose so I can grab them easily. I've got a lot of games in here. You know, Batman, Arkham City. I've got Zelda, The Wind Waker, sealed, but it's the greatest hits player's choice version. I've got Pikmin 3. I really like the game Nintendo Land. That's one of my favorite Wii U exclusives. That's still an exclusive, is Nintendo Land. I've got Xenoblade Chronicles X, Tekken Tag Tournament 2, Zombie U. It's a fun system. On the bottom shelf, I've got Nintendo Labo VR goggles. Yeah, they're pretty crazy. Headache-inducing. And then I've got this really heavy Nintendo Wii arcade stick. It's really cool. It's really a really great controller. And I've got this bad boy, the Nintendo Wii Balance Board. So we're getting near the end of this video. We've got my actual game shelf where the current consoles that I play I keep on. So I've got the Dreamcast down here. If you can see that, I've got the Sega Dreamcast down here. And I like to keep at least 1 or 2 controllers for the console nearby so that way I can just find them right away. I've got the PS1 right there, PlayStation 1. I have the actual PS1, which I'll show you in a little bit, on the other shelf. But I've got a controller for it, the one without the thumbsticks. I've got the Sega Genesis original Model 1 with a controller and the power adapters back there. For N64, I've got 3 controllers here in the original N64. Up here we've got the Super Nintendo, which is my second Super Nintendo. My other one got damaged last year and doesn't work anymore. So I have this one, and it works perfectly fine. Right here I've got a Bluetooth controller adapter for that arcade stick. I've got right here a Super Famicom controller connected and a normal Super Nintendo controller right there. Got my TV right here. I've got my NES Retron HD, which plays NES games, connected to the 4-score to help me out with an extension cable and the extra controller ports and turbo as well. Got the controller that came with it here. I've got a Retrobit Advantage style joystick for NES only. Now there's my TV. It's 42 inches. That's pretty much all you really need if you're just by yourself. It's 42 inches max, I would say. And it's connected to all my consoles for the most part. Some of them aren't plugged in right now, but they are able to be plugged in. Got CDs there. Those are all music CDs, and on the other side as well, I've got some other ones somewhere else. Got the NES right there. That one is working completely. Got some controllers for it. Down here I've got the Wii U. I don't know why I have the PS2 Slim stacked on top of the Wii U like that. It's not plugged in, but the Wii U is. Got my original Wii right there because I was playing that recently. And my PlayStation 3. And then on the shelf below, I've got the Duke, and that means the original Xbox. Yep, original Xbox and Duke controller. You can see I moved my controller bags over here, because I wasn't going to show you, but I am now. This is actually really important. This seems like 2 bags of junk, and it might not be that important to you, but it is actually really important to gamers to keep things organized. So what I do is I have a couple bags here. These are all full of wires, like HDMI cables, audio, video. Some of them are specific to each console, so what I do is I take them, this one's empty, but I label them on a Ziploc bag, what they are for, what console they're for, like Super Nintendo, Genesis. Put them all in this bag, zip them up, and then put them in a bigger bag that's clear. You can know where they are, and then you can go to grab them by console when you need that game console to be connected. Over here we've got Chewbacca, cardboard cutout, really cool. It's kind of stuck in the corner right now because I don't have anywhere to put him in the middle or anything. My room is pretty small, as you can tell right now. Over here I've got some DVDs, Blu-rays, and not very many of them. I've got some stuff on display up there too. Got some toys on display up there. Some of them are complete in box, like Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Alien, Star Wars. My Berserk manga collection. Some more manga. And some more manga in my VHS collection as well, which is pretty limited. So there's my computer desk where I do all my editing. I do it on 2 monitors. And that's the setup there. It's a bit messy, but there's my Twilight Princess wall scroll. I've also got an NES Final Fantasy and NES Simon's Quest box art posters. Got some video game hats, of course. A few Funko Pops. And I've got my computer right here. And then I've got my turntable right here, because I do have a record collection. I'll show you that real briefly as well. Down here is where I keep my record collection. These are all mostly vinyl records, some of them new, some of them old as the 60s or 70s, but some of them are pretty new. And then on this top shelf above it is just loose Star Wars toys and stuff, but the shelf below it is all vinyl records for the most part. Some of them are Laserdisc. Alright everybody, that was it for today's video of Happy Beard Games. We checked out my game room today, something that I don't do very often. I might try to come back and show a game room tour every year or so. Or maybe if I move from location to location, I'll have an updated game room. I'll be able to show that later on as well. But stay tuned to Happy Beard Games for more classic gaming goodness. I do reviews, pickups, and Let's Play style videos on my channel. You can check me out on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter as well. Subscribe today, leave a like, leave a comment. Alright everybody, bye!